Hey guys, I am Shark back again with another video. This time is a video of one of my favorite clan, well, my main clan, and how to make it relevant again in Vanguard standard format, because right now it's not doing too hot. So in this video, I'm going to be mentioning the clan main problem and tell a solution to fix it by showing a custom card I make, or sometime just mentioning a solution to fix it, or just, yeah. So let's get started. So let's start with talking about one of the most famous Gear Chronicle problem, not having Lost Legend to ride or not being able to ride Grade 3 in general. Gear Chronicle have this problem because they run Grade 4, while other clans don't need to, except maybe Royal to a degree. Some people still run Exculpate. It is this that make Gear one of the most breakiest deck in standard. To understand why is that, it's because by running grade 4, you need to ruin your grade 3 ritual, your grade ritual. And usually it's the grade 3 and a bit of the grade 1 sometimes. With this, you usually only have Lost Legend as your only grade 3, therefore making it harder to get grade 3 in general. So let's try to find a solution to fix this problem. So here's a custom card I made a long time ago, which I'll use as a base to give an idea how to fix this problem. So the unit call is Lost Seeker Dragon. It's a grade 1 with 8k power with the following skill. Although on Vanguard or Rearguard when placed, put a grade 4 from hand to deck, then search your deck for a grade 3 and add it to hand. Now this might seem pretty generic, and it is, but it's actually a good card to fix the problem. So first of all, the cost of putting a grade 4 in deck is it's actually not that hard because you usually run grade 4 in place of grade 3. Anyway, so it's now basically every grade 4 in hand is now can be turned into a grade 3, which is very important for gear. Now you might be thinking, it looked pretty okay, but in the late game, this is trash. Well, actually, not really to a degree, since if you play Gear before, you would know that sometimes there are grade 4 that fill up your hand, and you can't really use them before except use as a cost or just ride with them, which now can be solved with this card. So it's like hitting two birds with one stone. Recycling them back to use it again, you add a grade 3. So you still have enough cost, so technically you kind of hit three birds with one stone. I can talk about this a bit more, but if I don't move on, this video is going to be an hour long. So let's get started with the next point. So our next major problem with Gear Chronicle is binding. You might not think this is a problem. Well, it's not when it first came out, but after a year, the current binding we have is not enough. So let me go over three way of binding we have at the moment, and which one should focus more on the support or have a new way of binding. So first binding we're gonna talk about is binding from hand. So the current binding card from hand we have are Lost Break Dragon, Wedgmoot Dragon, and Steam Mechanic Anna. That should be right. Both Lost Break and Wedgmoot, when buying a card from hand, let you draw a card back, which is pretty efficient binding for the early game. But for the late game, not so much, because you would rather bind from Dropzone anyway. So Anna is the oddball here, since it doesn't get you back the -1 you lose, but she does minus from opponent, so that kind of make it equal. So overall, the binding from hand is pretty efficient in early game with Lost Break to bind and then draw back the card that you lost. But in late game, like I already said, bind from drop is much more efficient than just wasting card in your hand sometimes. Because in late game, you'll probably already bind on the card from hand you really want to. But so let's talk about the second way to bind in Gear Chronicle. It's the way I talk a lot just now, which is bind from Dropzone. The card in Gear that bind in this way are Nabu and Lipit, but both are a bit different. Limpet activate on place, which is good, so you can set up your bind zone before riding the Great 4 from deck. But on the other hand, we have Nabu, which activate on attack, which is bad in a sense that you can't set up your bind before riding the Great 4. But it does have guard restriction, and it's going to soul to avoid getting retired and even draw you back a card you just lose from Manabu sending to the soul, and also increase your soul, which is why this card is pretty good. So overall, the bind from Dropzone way are pretty efficient, since you get to choose a variety of cards from that get sent to the Dropzone. But it only kind of work in the late game. But in early game, not so much. There's not gonna be much option for you to play with, and if there is, it's probably just like a very low grade, which you don't want to waste this skill anyway. So now let's go to the next way of binding, which is bind after attacking. The cards that do this are Retroaxe, Curlin, and Gun Vessel. Both Gun Vessel and Curlin have the same kind of skill, where when attacked, pay a cost and gain a benefit. Then after battle, bind itself, which is pretty good because you get the benefit first. Then if the rear guard disappeared, you still get the bind benefit off, which is good. Retroact is kind of the same thing, but the benefit come after battle, which can add your grade 2 from Dropzone, which I will say right now it's not as good as people think it is. It's way too slow, it's not relevant right now, but it might be relevant in later game, we don't know yet. Some promo coming too very good after the new set, so maybe Retroax will be some kind of very OP card after the new set, we don't know. So now let's talk about which bind way is the best, or is there other way of binding? Which would be better than these three way of binding. So first of all, let me sum up the pro and con of each way of binding and recommend or mention a new way of binding you might like. The bind from hand are pretty good at early game, since there will be no Dropzone to abuse the bind from drop. So at the early game, this way of binding is pretty efficient, but lack on the late game, since there are much better options. Next are the bind from Dropzone. They are pretty useless in early game, since there are not much card in Dropzone to really abuse it, but in the late game, this is brilliant. Next is the bind after attack, which is good since it gains benefit when attacked, then bind itself, so it's -1, but you gain benefit from binding. But the downside is that it's pretty slow bind. So now let's go over new way of binding that you might like to have. So the most obvious choice is bind from top deck, like we used to do in G. But it's pretty inefficient since you are randomly binding from deck, which could easily be a trigger. This method of binding will only work if the bind is very turbo fast, but that might make it too good. Mystery Flare would be too overpowered. Now, a suggestion that's probably not gonna happen, which is the archetype I created that I might make a video about, called Paradox Logia, which focus on binding the card from top deck face down, or just binding card face down in general. Then turning it face up, but I will probably talk more about it in a later video if I'm gonna make one. But yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I didn't manage to talk about everything I wanted, even though the script is like 5 paper. So if you guys like this video, I might make a second video after this video, because this video make too long, so took too long. And what should I cover on the next one? I haven't covered yet. That I didn't cover yet, or you didn't really like what I said for this part and you want me to add some more HUD. But yeah, sorry I didn't manage to do a video last week since this script takes such a long time to write, to make and write. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And remember, keep playing.